Hello and welcome. This is rooflemonger. And my friends, today we're here to talk a tale of two different games. Dragon Ball FighterZ and Granblue Fantasy Versus. Haven't done the Dragon Ball opener in a while here, quite a while. You know, old Galdo standing behind the house, and well, I guess that's part of what this video is. Because if you're a fan of Dragon Ball FighterZ, you haven't really had much to look forward to in a very, very long time. And the one thing we did get in Android 21, the labcoat version, has basically done more harm than good. Part of this video is inspired by an IGN article, actually a very well done IGN article, that talks about basically the fate of Dragon Ball FighterZ. In that, well, is this the end of the line? This is something I've talked about before, but the IGN article puts a very fine point on it by they have directly reached out to Bandai Namco to talk about, plans or future or anything about Dragon Ball FighterZ, and they got stonewalled. They got absolutely no response. It's one thing for, like, say, myself or someone else from the community to not get an answer, whatever. We're just YouTubers, or we complain and moan on Twitter. I can see them not answering that. But however, refusing a direct question from IGN, one of the most famous outlets in the world, that is a bit more telling to me. So let's lay it out here. Dragon Ball FighterZ, a game with impossible potential, sold many millions of copies, did very well over the course of many years, and now we're basically effectively in its twilight. And Granblue Fantasy Versus, a game that, well, launched in a poor state. It was the wake-up call for the FGC that we need rollback netcode in all of our fighting games from now on, and thankfully we're here. The rollback feature now finally happened, right? That's great, but it struggled. I don't want to say it was dead on arrival, but it definitely didn't do amazing numbers. However, even now, it's getting more support. So first we'll talk Dragon Ball, and then we'll talk some Granblue. So, Dragon Ball FighterZ. The state the game's in right now is probably worse than it was before. The state, just right after Season 3, before Android 21 labcoat showed up, I think maybe was the best overall state the game's ever been in. The amount of playable characters at a competitive level was basically the highest it's ever been. Maybe it wasn't perfect, but what game is, right? But still, things were going pretty good. The only consistent complaint is, where is the rollback netcode? And that's something that's kind of stuck in my craw more and more year after year after year. And not only that, but just the silence or just, lip service. Oh yeah, we heard you, and then they just move on. That sucked. It didn't play well by me, and I know it didn't play well by many other people. In general, the lack of communication with the fans on any given issue is more and more frustrating to me, to the point where, you might notice on this channel, I don't really cover Dragon Ball anymore. If any one game I was famous for, it would have been Dragon Ball FighterZ, and now I don't really touch it. You haven't seen Android 21 combo guides or anything like that, right? The refusal to deal with the netcode situation was beyond frustrating for me, especially for someone, I live in Canada, I live in the middle of nowhere, online is really my only option. And now with multiple games coming out, I don't have to settle for bad online. I can play Strive. I can play King of Fighters 15. I don't have to deal with bad online anymore. So why am I going to deal with bad online anymore? And effectively, I stopped. If Bandai Namco cared enough, they could put in the money into the game and put rollback netcode in the game. They just got to pay Arc System Works. And yes, I understand it would be expensive, but considering how many millions of copies that Dragon Ball FighterZ has sold, to me, whatever. They can afford it. It would win them more than their money spent amount back in goodwill, at the bare minimum. It's been proven as very doable, yes, even in 3D modern fighters, because NetherRealm Studios did it with Mortal Kombat X. They did it well over a year into the game's launch, and, the majority of the game's profits and sales are already made, right? So it was not necessarily a money-making decision, but they did it for the good of the community. And since it's been done that way, and Arc System Works has been putting rollback into some of their other games, outside of the whole Bandai Namco publisher dynamic, right? It always bugged me a lot. And now, here we are in the present time. Android 21 labcoat's been out for quite a while. Nobody's really happy with her because she's so strong, she kind of takes a lot of the fun out of the game. And that IGN interview, a lot of people interviewed in that state much the same, that, either you pick 21 or you get bopped by 21. That's kind of where the game is at for the most part. And is this to be addressed in any way? Is this, a balance patch or something? Is there even a single line of communication out of Bandai Namco about this? No. And once again, yes, Arc System Works develops the game, but in a purely mercenary fashion, right? Bandai Namco, they pay Arc System Works to do the work, and they're the ones that call the shots, so the buck stops with them. And for the most part, it's been silence, 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 nothing, nothing, nothing. We look at other more modern developers here, Arc System Works with Strive, or SNK with King of Fighters. They're pretty communicative, they're saying, okay, here's what's up on the future, this, that, and the other. And it absolutely has an effect on the community. When we look at, say, the Steam charts, this is one of the things posted in the IGN article, and I found very eye-opening. The Steam charts is, in the last few months, Dragon Ball FighterZ has basically lost like a third of its player base, at least on the PC version. As we are not privy to console numbers the same way as we are PC, and console for Dragon Ball is probably a little bit higher. However, regardless, we see a large bump in player interest when labcoat 21 came out, and then a marked decline afterwards. Even on the casual fan, even if you don't take Dragon Ball FighterZ that hardcore, it's telling the casual player base is kind of losing interest in the game. And this is extra telling as the EVO numbers for pre-registrations are out. And Granblue Fantasy Versus, the game that's been quote-unquote dead, right, has more entrance to it in this early stage than Dragon Ball FighterZ does. So right now, Granblue Fantasy Versus, it's not much of a debate, I guess you could say, that it's not as successful as Dragon Ball FighterZ, right? It didn't sell as many copies at a bare minimum. And what are they doing right now? Well, they're preparing a new big balance patch that's coming out in June, and they're doing a survey where, hey, we're going to add even more DLC to the game. Which characters do you want to see? Now, Granblue as a game has absolutely had its ups and downs, especially on the balance patch front. A lot of balance patches for Granblue, people haven't been the biggest fans of some of the decisions made. But still, even with a game with only a fraction of the success that Dragon Ball FighterZ has had, they're still continuing and willing to support it. And it's very telling in these early EVO registration numbers that the community has backed it because, well, once again, they have more registrants for EVO 2022 than Dragon Ball FighterZ does. And I guess what's the lesson to be said here is really simple in that a little bit of support can go a long way. We don't even necessarily need balance patches or new characters or this, that, and the other, but just a notification of what's going on. Even if that notification is, a negative one, right? Like when Mortal Kombat 11 put out the, hey, we're done updating the game patch. It didn't necessarily make people happy, but at least it gave you a bit of closure, right? At least we know now we're not necessarily going to expect anything from Mortal Kombat 11 going on into the future. They're working on whatever their next project is. Even if they did something like that for Dragon Ball FighterZ, it would at least be a nice farewell to the game other than complete and utter silence. As it stands, I don't think there's anything else coming for Dragon Ball FighterZ. I think it's effectively done, right? I don't think, and it's definitely not in the game's interest to like Xenoverse this thing and drag its corpse along throughout all the years instead of a proper sequel. A proper sequel is obviously what is needed. But at least give the people the courtesy of letting you know if we're truly done now, then let us know we're truly done. And if we're not truly done, then at least give us the hint to say, hey, there's more coming, period, send tweet, right? Either way, just for the love of God, let the community know what's going on. Bandai Namco has to be the absolute worst company in the FGC when it comes to communicating with its audience. And in the end, I guess that's really all there is to be said, right? A tale of two games, one where it started off huge, remained huge for years, but numbers are slowly falling because no one really knows what's going on, and there's no support or any hint of support on the future, and people are just confused and angry. And the other game, maybe it never set the world on fire to begin with, but it has support chugging along, and people are there to support it. So that's where we're at right now. If they actually want to do actual support for Dragon Ball FighterZ, maybe I'll do more Dragon Ball FighterZ content in the future. But as it stands, I'm very happy supporting games I can actually play online, like Guilty Gear Strive and King of Fighters 15. So that all said, my friends, let me know what you think about all this. I know a lot of you probably aren't the happiest with DBFZ right now, so let the comments fly. And otherwise, hey, well, thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some fighting games.